It was Christmas Eve, and the house was warm and cozy in that way only a family home can be. Outside, snow fell softly, blanketing the streets in a quiet hush that made every sound inside the house seem louder. The tree in the corner sparkled with twinkling lights and handmade ornaments, the smell of cinnamon and roasting turkey hanging heavy in the air. I had arrived early to help my mom with the dinner. She moved around the kitchen in her usual controlled chaos, setting dishes on the counter, stirring sauces, tasting spices, muttering under her breath about forgetting to buy cranberries again. My dad was in his recliner, half watching a Christmas movie, half nodding along to my mom's complaints, a glass of wine in his hand. Family started arriving in waves. Aunts and uncles with gifts tucked under their arms, cousins bouncing in from the cold, my younger cousin Jake with his usual mischievous grin. At first, everything was perfect, the kind of picture-perfect Christmas we all thought we wanted. Dinner was a small affair, but for our family, it was tradition. We crowded around the table, hands reaching for rolls, carving the turkey, passing sides, laughing at jokes that had been told 100 times. I remember thinking how ordinary it all felt. There was nothing out of place, nothing strange. Just family. Just Christmas. But then I noticed Jake. At first I thought he was tired. He was picking at his food without enthusiasm, staring down at his plate. He didn't speak much, just nodded when someone asked him a question. That was unusual for him. He was normally loud, boisterous, a little chaotic, but I didn't think much of it. Kids get moody, I told myself. As we ate, I kept stealing glances at him. His fork hovered over his plate, trembling slightly. He didn't take another bite. He wasn't engaging in conversation. He just stared. My parents were busy serving themselves more turkey and potatoes, laughing with my aunts and uncles so nobody else seemed to notice. Then he got up. Slowly. Silently. He left his plate untouched and walked out of the dining room. I froze. Something in my stomach twisted. I wanted to call him back, but I didn't want to embarrass him in front of everyone. Maybe he just needed the bathroom. But 5 minutes later, my Aunt Linda went to check on him, and screamed. I bolted down the hallway, my heart pounding, and found Jake on the floor in the living room, clutching his stomach, pale and sweating. His breaths came in short, ragged gasps. His eyes rolled back for a moment before focusing again, wide with fear. "Call 911, my mom shouted, grabbing the phone from the counter. My dad knelt beside Jake, trying to calm him, while I hovered, frozen, unable to process the sudden terror that had replaced the warmth of our family gathering. It happened so fast. Paramedics arrived, moving quickly, speaking in urgent, clipped tones I barely understood. They lifted Jake onto a stretcher, strapped him in, and within minutes he was gone, flashing lights fading into the snowy night as my parents followed behind in the car. The rest of us stood in stunned silence. The house felt hollow afterward. The smell of dinner, which had been comforting in festive moments ago, now carried a faint edge of panic. The candles flickered as if unsure they were welcome here. Food sat uneaten, slowly cooling on the table. Conversations faltered, laughter died. Everyone moved like shadows, cautious, tense, as though the air itself had changed. Hours later the call came. Jake had accidentally eaten something containing an allergen he didn't know he had. Something seemingly harmless to the rest of us, but for him, it had triggered a severe reaction. He was lucky to be alive. But the relief was a thin, fragile thing. It didn't erase the terror of those moments, the image of him on the floor, gasping for air, or the sound of my aunt's scream echoing down the hallway. After that night, Christmas never felt the same. Every year, as we gather around the tree and sit down to eat, there's a quiet tension under the surface. I check every label, every ingredient, every dish, reading carefully because I know how quickly something ordinary can turn dangerous. What haunts me most isn't the illness itself, it's the sudden shift from normalcy to horror. One moment, everything is warm, happy, safe. The next, it's chaos, fear, panic. A reminder that danger doesn't always wear a mask or appear in shadows. Sometimes, it sits quietly at the table next to you, disguised as ordinary, everyday life. It's strange how memory works. I can still hear the laughter of that evening, the clinking of silverware, the hum of the heater. And underneath it all, I can hear Jake's soft, uneven breaths, and I can feel the panic of realizing that Christmas dinner, the most ordinary festive thing in the world, can become a nightmare in seconds. Years later, I've come to understand that horror doesn't need monsters or ghosts. It doesn't need supernatural elements to unsettle you. Sometimes, the most terrifying moments are the ones that could happen to anyone. A single mistake. An overlooked detail. A normal Christmas dinner turning into a fight for life. Every Christmas since, I prepare meticulously. I make lists, double-check every dish, ask everyone what ingredients they're using. I smile, I laugh, I participate in the holiday cheer, but there's always that quiet, gnawing knot in my stomach. A reminder that the ordinary can become terrifying in an instant, and that horror doesn't always announce itself with a scream. It can arrive quietly like a shadow at your table, a chill in the room, or a single, unsuspecting bite of food. Christmas dinner for me will never again be just about the turkey, the gravy, or the pie. It's a reminder of how quickly life can change, how fragile our safety is, and how thin the line is between joy and fear. That's the horror I remember most vividly, not the chaos of emergency rooms, not the panic, not even Jake's allergic reaction, but the feeling that everything ordinary, everything familiar, can transform into a nightmare in a heartbeat. And every time I see a Christmas tree, every time I smell roasted turkey or cinnamon, that memory comes back. The ordinary Christmas dinner becomes a haunting reminder. Horror doesn't need monsters. It only needs a moment, a misstep, and the world as you know it can crumble around you. Christmas is supposed to be a time of joy and togetherness, but as tonight's story shows, horror can lurk in the most ordinary moments, even at your own dinner table. Remember, the scariest things aren't always in the shadows. Sometimes they're right in front of you. If this story sent chills down your spine, make sure to subscribe to D-E-W of Dredd for more true-life horror stories and terrifying tales that will haunt your mind. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a story, and share your own creepy experiences in the comments. I want to hear your real-life horror stories.